Hey, Fran, how are you doing today?
I don't know. We'll find out where we end up today. How's that sound?
That sounds good. I think both of us are definitely feeling a little defeated or discouraged or maybe even depleted right now.
How about
So,
discombobulated?
discombobulated, yes, I am definitely feeling that. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Friday with Fran. I am Shelly, and this is my friend Fran. And every Friday, we just get together and we have a conversation and we talk some things related to special education. Not that we necessarily would have to be qualified to do so because it's just two friends having a conversation. But I am a former special education teacher and I am now an educational consultant, master IEP coach, and Fran has two adult children. I have to emphasize adult because it's still hard for me to believe that they're both adults, even though they've been adults for several years now.
As do you have an adult child
I
now too?
do. I do. Um, and so, yeah, we've got some experience in the areas of special education and special needs. And Fran has the most experience in what we're going to be talking about today, which is caregivers of those with special needs. And it doesn't even really have to pertain just to those with special needs, because I think what we're going to talk about can apply to anybody who's a caregiver.
Yes.
Something that I have found out in the last couple of years in working with different families is that when your child at birth is given a diagnosis of, let's say, Down syndrome, you are now in the caregiver role, excuse me, for every minute of every day, as long as that child is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about it in those terms. I've known caregivers for a sick spouse or a sick parent or, even a sick child with a long-term illness. But those things tend to have shorter end dates as far as length of time. I've never known anyone to be a caregiver for 21 years. And to be as an intense of a caregiver as being the parent of a child with special needs often requires. Most of the time when I think about, like, even with my dad, when he got sick and passed away, it was just months. My grandmother, she was several years that my mom took care of her, but still that wasn't every minute of every day. What is that like? What does that feel like?
Some days I don't even realize that I have children who happen to have different abilities. They're just and then they're just my kids. And then there are some days I feel the added weight of the different abilities along with just raising them. And now with my different abilities, some days even balancing all of that leads to where I am today, discombobulated.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure.
So yeah, I'm just gonna, sorry, just a little bit.
Be careful. Don't hurt yourself again. She was adjusting her monitor and her camera before we started, because I put her, I don't know if any of you are paying attention, but we're on opposite sides today.
Yeah.
The program or the format, what do you call it? Provider that I use for these just added this feature where we could be on, I can switch which side we're on. So just to try to mix things up a little, we've switched sides today. So, but she does have an injury, and so she overextended.
I actually have a bunch of ribs out right now.
Yeah.
And have pulled some muscles and just my back. Well, life happens when you just don't take care of yourself and slow down. What is it? What is that one saying they always say? Slow down and smell the roses.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm allergic to flowers, so that's kind of counterproductive anyway, because that'll just make me sneeze.
Right.
But roses are really pretty. What color
Yeah.
roses do you like?
What? Oh gosh. That's interesting because I know there are so many people who absolutely love roses.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're pretty on bushes and, I don't necessarily get excited if somebody sends me roses because I don't really have favorite favorite scents or, but I would probably lean pretty much any flower that is purple.
Okay.
And it's weird because when we named our daughter Violet, it wasn't because I was such a fan of purple. I became such a fan of purple after we named her Violet.
Got it.
So I know that's kind of weird, but now I feel this is so strange because now I feel like I'm looking before I felt like it looked like I was looking at you. And now that we're on the opposite side, it doesn't feel like that anymore.
For me, I feel like I'm looking at you better because of where I have my favorite set. See, okay, so but even for people looking in it and watching this, can you imagine you and I have comprehension of the fact that we just flip the screen and move things, but how different it is for us. We've been doing this for a few times now, and we had gotten used to where we were, and now we've done something different, and it's causing us a little consternation, a little
difficulty
with
our D words.
We're doing our D words.
Last week was E, today's D. So
yeah, but yeah, I like yellow roses. They've always been my favorites.
Yeah, they are pretty. Rose of Sharon. That's what I just we were. If my nephew's watching, we stopped at your house the other day and you weren't home. But you do have beautiful Rose of Sharon bushes in your yard. But yeah, they were like multiple shades of purple. So yeah, any kind of flowers are good, I think. So are yellow roses your favorite just rose or your favorite kind of flower?
Just rose. I'm not really a flowery person per se, but I like yellow roses. I think they're pretty.
Yeah.
There's just something about the yellow is cheery yet not overpowering to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it. So many people think of roses as only being something you would give to a husband or wife, someone you date.
Right.
Whereas there's so much more to just the yellow rose. There's a lot more. Sorry, word finding is a little off today. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, little more meaning behind just that they mean love. I mean, they can mean.
Yeah, you can use them for so many different things.
Yeah.
Than just. I could give you yellow roses, and you would not look at me kind of sideways, going, "Fran, why are you giving me yellow roses?"
Right.
If I gave you red, you would be going, "Fran, I would prefer that to come from my husband, not from you." So
right. Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I'm going. Eventually, the word will come to me, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, no, they have different meanings behind them. Different. So yellow is more friendship. White, there's a connotation that goes with white. Pink, purple. Yeah. I mean, there's just different.
Okay. And going to those colors, even, then the ribbons people have for awareness, and then the colors. And so, right. Anyway, that could be another whole thing. That could be another whole day.
Here we go down the rabbit hole.
I'm staying on track because I'm looking at, I have my list up. So I'm trying to stay focused a little bit here.
Yeah. Okay.
So back kind of to where we were, but the roses do tie in, flowers tie in, because taking the time to assess where you are, to check your battery level, and figure out a way to recharge it to some degree is absolutely essential if you are going to be able to provide the care your loved one, whether they have a different ability or not, needs.
Right.
So I saw something one day, someone said, you can't share love on an empty battery or something like that.
Well, and for anyone who's ever been on a plane, when they're giving you all of the safety regulations of what you should do in an emergency, it's always that you put your oxygen mask on first, and then you help someone else. Because if you don't have oxygen, you're not going to think correctly. You're not going to perform correctly. And so in order to take care of other people, you have to concern about yourself first, even if just for a second. But you still have to be very cognizant of, okay, I have to put this on first, and then I can take care of whoever else I need to take care of. So our big word always seems to come up is balance. And I don't know if Alex is watching today, but I'm just thinking she's going to pop the word balance in there. I'm going to get it before she says it this time. So how do you as a caregiver balance taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you?
There are days I am spot on fabulous and I could be your model caregiver. And then there are days that I forget to even hydrate myself or to remember to feed my. Oh.
I got ahead of you today, Alex.
or even to feed myself. So I tried to. Okay, so I tried prior to coming on to make just a simple list, because I mean there are tons of things I do and there are tons of things I should do or could do or have been told I should do, but so many times people are so well-meaning and they give you some things to do and you're like, dude, do you realize if I were to do that, I would not have a house, my children will have killed themselves, or I will be dead, or they will be dead. Something will not be good if I do what you just asked me to do to care for myself. So I tried to put a few things that you can do, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but by doing even just that, and I'm not saying each thing will charge your battery from empty to full, but if you give yourself time to do these occasionally, it's amazing how your battery will not at least be on empty when you need it most.
Right. So you want me to share the list?
Well, I don't know. Well, let me, maybe I'll just give a personal. How's that sound first?
Okay.
Will that work?
And for those who are watching, if you have something that you do that helps you recharge or helps you get focused again or helps you get energized, go ahead and drop that in the comments, and then we'll see how many different things we can come up with. Because as Fran said, every person is not going to be able to have access to all the same things. They're not going to be able to get the same things for themselves, or those things that maybe rejuvenate Fran wouldn't rejuvenate me. Right. So the more ideas that we can share, because Fran was more on the ball and she put this list together, where I'm just like scrambling in my head going, well, what do I do? And I'm not really that much of a caregiver in the sense of having to do it all the time, but I still have to take care of me so that I can get to, I made a list for myself over was it last weekend? No, it was last week one day, of all the things. I was just starting to feel extremely overwhelmed. And I was like, I can't do everything. And my husband's like, just take a breath, write it down, and then we can prioritize. So, I do still have to do things that I need to be taking care of me in order to get those things done. All right. So what's your personal experience?
Well, okay. Nancy just shared something, though. If you would like to share that, I'm okay with that. And then I'll give you my
you want me to go with that first?
Okay. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. So Nancy says meditation, even if for only 2 minutes at a time. and to breathe. And welcome, Nancy. I don't know that you've watched us before, so glad to have you joining us today. Nancy is a counselor, so that is a very good tip that I'm sure she shares with some of her clients.
And Nancy, I'm laughing because the very beginning one on my list is take a moment to just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And for me also, for meditation also is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Just spending the time, for me, it's just spending the time, sometimes talking to God and sometimes just sitting, waiting on him to share, just sitting in his presence is for me very refreshing to my inner spirit. But okay. Oh, sorry. Well, you were going to say something.
I was going to say that, you're saying sitting, waiting on the Lord. And I've had many people say to me, well, I can't even go to the bathroom without, a child following me or my pet following me or, the phone ringing or someone needing.
I knew what I'd do with that. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish. And then.
No, that's okay. I was just, that I wanted to ask you. So what advice would you have?
Yeah, because my son would literally sit on the edge of the bathtub while I was using the restroom and he would just keep talking to me. And so in that moment, I knew he was safe because I could see him because I have a really tiny bathroom and he's literally sitting right across from me and he's talking so I can hear him. So in that moment, I would allow myself to just rest. Yeah, I'm sitting on the toilet, but I would allow myself to close my eyes because I could hear him. I knew he was right across from me because his knees were touching my knees because, like I said, it's a small bathroom. And I would take that moment to just let him talk to me, talk, sing whatever he wanted to do. I knew he was safe, so I could just rest. Yeah. I could remove myself of having to be hypervigilant and just take it down a few notches. And sometimes we would just sit in the bathroom, it doesn't take that long to go to the bathroom, but he was entertained and I could just chill.
Right.
So finding a moment to chill in the moment where you are, finding a moment to take your vigilance down a degree. I know of friends who, my children, their needs, they were more able-bodied. So it wasn't sometimes a needs of physical hands-on care of them. It was more a matter of keeping them safe or redirecting or helping them do things. But I know there are some moms that are, they have to physically hold their children to keep them safe or their feeding tubes and changing them. And so where do you find time for that? And I want to take it back to what you were saying about your list and how you're feeling overwhelmed by it and how your husband, one of the things I had written, I'm going to highlight it. And then if you want to share it.
Okay.
Let me highlight it first, or that'll work. Okay. So that, to prioritize a lot of times I'm a list person, so I'll prioritize a list, but then, and my list can be really long for the week, for whatever, but reassess it partway through the day and go, okay, well, I've gotten this done. I haven't gotten this done. And what can be set aside for another day? What can be, what can I do? What can I take time for some other time?
Yeah.
Does that, and then another.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me with my list. And that's exactly what Kevin said to me, was write it all down, write everything down in your brain. And it was regular college lined paper, front and back, and then a second page that I started. And he said, okay, now prioritize that. And if there is something on that list that I can do, that I can take off of that for you.
Oh, that even takes down to where I was down here. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
He's like, let me help you. And out of that list, there were maybe only 3 things, because a lot of them had to do directly with helping my customers and preparing things for my customers. And then I had a huge project that I have been working on for 2 years. And it culminated this week. And it was just like, making sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. Literally, I will share what the project is in a few weeks.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear what this project is.
But I mean, it was just like, and then, I had this client who needed me right now. And then I got a customer who was like, I have an IEP meeting, in 2 days. Can you attend? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, now all of a sudden I have, an extra IEP to read through and an extra meeting to prepare for. And I was just like, I was, and that doesn't happen to me very often. But it just seemed like everything was falling in at once. But once I wrote it all down, and I could just feel as I was writing it down that the stress was going away. And I know, because I love to learn about the brain, that is exactly what I needed to do. I mean, that is scientifically proven that if you write it down, it's that your brain needs to get it out, and then it doesn't focus on it. But if it has to hold it in your head, there's where the problem comes in. So, letting others do for you is not a sign of weakness or failure. It's using your resources wisely. That is very true. And we called out my mom about that last week. And we called Fran out about that last week, because they both will ask somebody to help them, but then not always have the patience to wait for that person to do what they need them or want them to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mom is watching right now, but I did talk to her earlier, and she was kind of out of breath. And I said, "What are you doing?" I'm trimming weeds, cutting down weeds. The ones that are like 8 and 10 inches in diameter. I'm like, "You're doing what?" What? You have a son and a son-in-law and a grandson, and other people that live nearby that could help you out with that. But she was like, "No, I just wanted it done." I'm like, okay. So, Nancy. Go ahead.
I just want a real quick touch before we go where Nancy talked about. By resources, this is something I've had to learn. And a lot of people may not understand resources the way I wrote it there, because I didn't understand it to be what it was. But it took being in a rehab center after hurting my hip. I had fallen because as I was recovering, and really hurt my hip. So I had to have physical therapy. And I was only using a walker because I had to get better, and I had to, so I could take care of my children. And I had to do that. No one told me that, but that's what I felt in my inner being.
Right.
And so, do you want to stop sharing for a second? I'm sorry, the screen.
No,
is that okay? Because I can't see you well, and I feel like I'm talking to. I feel like I'm talking to my favorite. It's just me. I can see you kind of. Sorry. Anyway, but so by resources, they help me see. Okay, because like I would mop, or I would be cleaning, and I would do dishes because I wanted to be able to return to normal, whatever. Which is really funny. And today, that word. But they help me prioritize, figure out, okay, this resource, meaning my body's physical strength, the leg, how long can it stand? So don't mop or sweep with your walker. Use your wheelchair. And stand to do your dishes because you can't reach, because you're short. And I have T-Rex arms. They're like the shortest arms in the world. Really. You can ask coworkers. We used to joke about it. Fran's T-Rex arms. I'd be on a stool and I still couldn't reach because my arms are short. So anyway, so I know that I do. It's all good. I'm good with that. So anyway, I obviously cannot do dishes in my wheelchair, or I will just be completely wet. So that was that's what I mean by resources there, not just financial resources or material resources. Your energy resources is what I'm referring to there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a cat. It's like everywhere.
That's okay. Today. Emmy wants to join us today. That's fine.
Apparently it's biting me. So.
Is it not going to let me go back? Oh, let's see. There we go. Okay. So I took me out for a second because it was telling me I was going to remove it, but I wanted to show that again. letting others do for you is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is using your resources wisely. And when we're talking about resources, I did not think about that, but your energy level is definitely a resource, and you do need to make sure that you're not depleting your resource either. So that was awesome. Thank you. So Nancy mentioned meditation just a couple minutes ago. And when we talked about meditation, she says so many people get stuck with the preconceived idea that meditation is perfect silence and stillness and total focus for 45 minutes at a time. Not so. Even a few moments in a row of focus and relaxation is better than nothing. And that's so true.
Yes.
We often make mountains out of molehills. I can't talk today. Even when we're trying to make things better, we sometimes build it up so much in our head that we just assume it's not going to work, and we don't even try it. And I definitely can tell you that whole list writing thing is not something that I've definitely promoted that in the past, but it's not something that I always follow. And it was very eye-opening that, oh my gosh, like I said, it just felt like, I was full up to here, and every little thing that I wrote down just brought that, okay, a little bit lower. And to be honest, I'm still working off of that list. I keep adding things to it, but I still don't have everything checked off that I wrote earlier this week or the end of last week, whenever it was. Because that's just how life is.
But, and what I think I want to share with you specifically, as you're sharing that, give yourself grace. Because we have our list, and we feel like if we don't finish that list, we're a failure. Yeah. Or if we add to it and we haven't finished it, or someone's going to think, oh my gosh, they don't have their life together. How can they help me if they can't even help themselves? So often, and this, I'm telling myself this as well as telling you, Shelley. Yeah. Grace is so hard to give to ourselves. It's so much easier to give to another.
Yeah. Yep. Most definitely. So what are some other things that you have done or that you currently are doing to help yourself be refreshed and rejuvenated, recreated, re-energized? What was the other R word?
Refueled, refreshed, well, I'm gonna try to focus. I'm looking at my list. I'm gonna try to go with a few. You can bring the list up if you want. I'm gonna try to go with a few of the things that tie into meditation, or just being still, or sit in your car and just listen to some music, or read a book, or if looking at Facebook or playing mindless Candy Crush or something, just take that moment to separate yourself if you're able. And if you can't literally go sit in the car, my other suggestion is sit in the yard if the weather's nice. And allow your child to self-entertain and give yourself a moment just to watch, much like I would allow my son to sit on the bathtub. Right. He entertained himself, and I tried to add a few bars to my battery while he did that.
And I think that is so incredible, especially now, because while most of the country is getting back to being able to get out and interacting with other people and whatnot, during the whole stay in shelter in place, I think that really was stressing a lot of parents out, because they then felt that they had to entertain their children all the time. And we have to remember that we are parents or caregivers. We are not entertainers. And we have to let our children. No, we're not.
Oh man, you just burst my bubble.
Even people who are entertainers do not have to entertain their own children 24/7. And I found that's kind of a side note. I thought it was so cute when, I think it was Jimmy Fallon. I get the Jimmys mixed up. The late night host, when he started broadcasting from home, and he had his little girls with him.
Uh-huh.
And there were many times where just the expression on his face could see, oh, he's about ready to blow, but he can't because he's on national television. And, and at that moment, he wasn't trying to entertain his children. He was trying to entertain America, but he had to have his children in tow with him because they couldn't go outside or do other things. I think maybe his oldest one is maybe like a kindergartner, if I remember their ages correctly, and the youngest one is probably in preschool. But I mean, they weren't going to school; they weren't going anywhere. So it was just really interesting to watch that dynamic, because we often think, oh, celebrities, well, they have people to watch their kids, they have people to do everything for them, and that's not true. And I have enjoyed that aspect of this shelter in place, seeing those people that I thought had it all together because they're a celebrity and you only see them for 2 seconds out of their whole day, interacting and being real. But yeah, I mean, throughout this whole thing, even the average parent or average family, I think had that feeling of, I have to always be entertaining my kids or my spouse or my whoever I'm caregiving for.
And you know what has set so many, not just parents of children who happen to have different abilities, but also parents that, I saw it too. Parents, just Pinterest, the internet, all these wonderful crafts, and these parents and Facebook, where parents post, oh, we did this and I did this with my children, and we're setting ourselves up for failure just by going, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this, and maybe that's not our strength. I am not very crafty.
Me either.
I mean, I've learned to crochet as part of my rehab, but I'm not very creative. And so sometimes I'm looking for a pattern for crocheting. Oh my goodness gracious. Right. And I get onto all these people and what they've done. And I'm like, yeah. And then I go, oh, I can do that. And I start and I'm like, oh my. So but we do the same thing, like you're saying. We feel like we have to entertain, but we don't.
Right.
When I was a kid, I was happy running out in the cornfield with a blanket and a book, and I'd go out. I'd read my book out there. I'd go chase bugs. I'd do all kinds of, follow the trail, the track of something through the cornfield. That entertained me. But society has pushed at us so much. Well, if you want your child to succeed, and then the extra burden, parents of kiddos who happen to have different abilities, they even, well, you have to make sure you get them to this therapy and then pay extra to do this. And then, it's just you are setting yourself up for failure. And I say that from experience.
Yeah.
You can only do so much. And then, and it comes back to, though, you have to, as Alex keeps reminding us, balance. And you have to give yourself grace. I just come back to that. But okay, so I'm going to do some of the random ones that I found that work for me.
Okay. On the list or off of the list?
Well, you can do the list.
Okay.
Yeah. But so I had just highlighted a couple more things that tie along with the just breathing, was just to allow unstructured time in the day. And that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. But my other big one is do nothing. Right. Do nothing.
We've lost the ability to do that.
Yeah. We really have. But some of the random things I found, okay, so what I did prior to stroke and what I had to do following stroke were much more different. I learned that Going on a walk around the block, taking the kids on a walk with the dog was important.
Mhm.
That refueled us all, because my daughter would look for bugs. My son would walk the dog, and I would get a little PT in. So I was doing something I was supposed to have been doing. But, so we all got something out of it. So
Mhm.
sometimes finding a way to care for yourself where you're still accomplishing something.
Right.
But I just want to come back to this letting others do for you is not a sign of weakness or failure. Because I felt like such a failure when I needed help, even prior to my stroke, when I needed someone, when I just couldn't do it anymore, because I was trying to do it on an empty battery.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I'm like, man, I was my worst enemy, because I would not allow myself, I would not care for myself. I did not think I was worth it, and to prioritize care for myself. And if nothing else, I hope everybody listening, because you and I belong kind of to that, what they call it, the sandwich generation. Do you know what that means?
Oh, because we've got kids and we've got parents, and we're taking care of both.
We're caring for both sometimes.
Yeah.
And so you're really, what is that phrase? Burning the
candle at both ends.
Yeah, that's it. So I hope everyone can realize that you are worth caring for yourself, because you deserve it, and you deserve love for yourself, to love yourself. You deserve to have time for you, to have something special for you. For me, sometimes, you want to know what my special is?
Sure.
Right now I'm on an ice cream kick.
So am I. That's weird, because I normally like ice cream is not
I'm
my favorite.
I'm lactose intolerant.
Oh.
So ice cream is really not a good ice cream. It's not a good thing. Right. But I really am craving it. So I'll go somewhere local, and I'll allow myself a baby cone or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I may not call home and see if my daughter wants one. I might just get myself a baby cone. Yeah. And just stop, pull over to the side of the road, and just enjoy it, and then go home.
Yep.
But I have to go, not allow myself to feel guilty because I didn't, because it doesn't mean I deprive her of other things. It's just in that moment, I allowed myself that moment of, okay, because then when I get home, I don't take out my frustrations on her. I don't take out my mad. I don't take out my emptiness and on her. I'm able to give her because I have something in my battery.
Right. Yep. There is a local place, and they make concretes, and both Kevin and I have in the last few months discovered one that we both absolutely love. And recently he had to go out of town, and this restaurant is only in our area. Mm-hmm. There's two of them in our area, but it's not, a big chain. And he went to a different ice cream place and got one that was kind of like the one that we've been so infatuated with recently. And so when he came back into town a couple of days later, I said, hey, I think I'm going to go I think they're called Nutty Buddy concretes. I'm not even really sure, because I get it wrong every time. And they're the people who take my order are like, you want what? You would think I would know the name by now, but I don't. And so I said, I think I'm going to go get one of those. Do you want one? And he was like, no. And I said, why did you say it like that? He goes, well, I may or may not have had something on by myself on the way to my, on my road trip. And I was like, oh, all right, then I'm going by myself.
Uh-huh.
But it was just that, like you said, it was just those couple of minutes of having something just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Which is rare. And Violet was at school, And so that was different too, because I'm just like you. If I stop and I get something, because this is one of her favorite places to get food and drinks, I'm like, oh, I need to text her. I need to ask, because I don't want to go home and have something and then not get anything. But yeah, it is. I mean, we have to do that. And one of the things that I find it, and I'm like, again, I'm not the kind of caregiver with the depth of caregiving that you are, but is just trying to find even one moment in a day, even as crazy and hectic as it has been for me lately. And my crazy and hectic may just be normal for other people, but for me, and so first of all, understanding that. And then second of all, just finding the joy, like, oh, I laughed today, I saw this meme, or I saw, this funny thing happened, or we have rabbits and squirrels and birds and our dog. And so, just taking a second, my dog has me extremely trained. I'm not going to say that my dog is trained, because he has me trained. So he doesn't like to go outside unless I go outside with him. So I can't just open the door and let him out and then come back in the house and do whatever. So in those 2 or 3 minutes that I'm outside with him, making sure he's safe, then I can just take that, like you said, when you would be in the bathroom, and just go, oh, look at that, look at the birds eating the bird food, or oh, there's there's 2 squirrels chasing each other, or, just watching a little bunny eat its grass. And so just remembering those 1 or 2 moments throughout the day, even I feel like on the worst day, I feel that there is still something you can be thankful for. Even like the day that my dad died, I could still be thankful because we knew that was coming. And so we had that chance to say goodbye and to say all the things that maybe we wouldn't have said had we not known that it was coming. So, still the worst day of my life, but there was something that I could take joy in. And I think that, well, the other thing that I took joy in that moment is I knew where he went. When he took his last breath, he took his first breath in heaven. And I had that assurance. So, that helped as well. Right. So for me, and I think for you as well, our faith helps us tremendously, to have some peace and to have some balance, and, to have a little bit of, a different perspective when we're starting to get empty.
Yeah, I found recently, because I have a really random sleep schedule. I don't sleep much, and when I do, I'm awake when most people are sleeping, just because that's just how it is when I wake up. And I had been trying recently just to make myself stay in bed, but they say the bed is supposed to be where you sleep.
Right.
And so don't do other things in there, like get on your phone or whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, so I would spend time, I would just try to sit and either talk to God, pray for people as they were coming on, meditate on scripture, or just think on life, But I was like, well, this isn't getting me to sleep, and it's waking me up even more sometimes. So recently I've just taken to coming out into the living room, and my daughter sleeps in the living room right now. So I kick her into my bedroom, and then, and then I'll play like praise music or something. And then I'll just sit and I'll allow myself just to find joy. And it's amazing when I focus on the positive things that I have. And that really helps fill the bars on my battery. Because as we're talking, I'm trying to think as a caretaker, how is the best way to think about it? And so many people, pretty much everyone probably has some form of electronic device, and it has a battery on it.
Right.
Where you can see with the little cells and the bars on it. So
right. Yeah.
I as we're talking, I keep thinking, well, how do we make the battery have more full than empty?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we are. And I think one of the things, just as I'm thinking on this, what I've had to do, I'm trying to think what has changed recently, is I had to stop comparing myself to others.
Yep.
And either holding them, putting them on a pedestal, thinking, wow, they've got it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And look at all what they're doing. Or going, okay, well, at least I'm doing better than, but
Right.
I just had to stop that, because each of us, like you had said previously, you are not doing, what is busy for chaotic for you may not be for somebody else. It may be their norm, but for you. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had to realize for me, and I think that was like a really, a big breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
Recently, was just to go, okay. And one of the things I don't have on the list, well, I kind of have it on there, ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I've learned that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to allow others to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
But not even just to do, sometimes ask if someone has time just to listen.
Right.
Do you have time? I just need to talk for a little bit. And it may, but first I've learned I have to tell them, if it's like, if I'm like really down in the dumps and I need to dump and get it out of me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say, are you in a good place? Because I'm
Right.
going to dump, and I don't want to bring you down. I want to make sure you have enough in your battery before I dump on you, because it finds someone to dump on them.
It
And so
does.
I want to, they have the resources they need for me to dump, that I'm not hindering them, because all that does then is I realize, oh, I put them in a horrible place, and it did me no good then to dump, because I've just added more into me and onto them.
Right. Because then you feel guilty, and you get this whole
And
other
also
thing going on.
realize, though, if I ask someone for help and they say I can't do it, not.
We're going to ban you from using that word.
That's a new word. If I can ask, and for those watching that may not see, Alex mentioned balance
All the time.
all the time, and it's true, and it is important. So, but so anyway, yeah, it's just allowing. Oh, I know where I was going with that. Prior to the balance is knowing, if someone says no, it's not an affront to you. It's because they are doing self-care.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are doing self-care, and it's okay for me to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I can say that out loud, but I
Do
don't.
you practice it?
And I don't really believe it. I'm working on it. It's something I'm learning on. I had a friend once tell me, Fran, if you can't say no, you'll pray about it, and it'll give you time to figure out how to say no. Or if you're really supposed to do it, then you can do it. And I'm like, so I'm maybe getting a little better at saying it that way, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the saying, if you want something done, there's the saying, if you want something done, ask the busiest person you know, because they will find the time. They will make the time to do it, because they're busy, because they're not saying no to people. We both know someone in our lives that put herself at tremendous risk because she could never say no to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard to watch that, because I saw her hurting herself because she was always wanting to help everybody else, but she wasn't ever taking care of herself. Being able to say no. And again, from a faith perspective, I learned some time ago that if I always said yes, because people knew that they could depend on me to get something done, so they would ask me, I might be taking someone else's blessing away by not giving someone else the opportunity to do whatever that thing was. So the praying about it isn't just a line, it's an actual, maybe this isn't for me to do. Or maybe maybe God's tapping on someone else's heart and they're just not stepping up yet. And if I do, then they're going to miss their blessing. So I need to give them, a little bit more time. And so that is another area where my faith plays very strongly into who I am now, because I try to remember that, just because somebody asks doesn't mean I'm supposed to jump and do it. I do need to pray and say, is this what you want me to do? Or do you have this for someone else? And there was something else I was going to say about, turning off social media. You mentioned social media earlier, stepping away from it, stepping away from the news. I have not watched a news broadcast in years. Just because I don't know when it was. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago that I said, everything in the news is negative. And every time I turn on the news, it's more negative being thrown at me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't information that I had to have. The weather is something that, I kind of need to know. So I know how to dress and prepare, but I can get a weather app on my phone, or I can, go online to one of the weather websites and I can find that out. And that was basically all I really needed the news for. And I still, every so often I'll watch a news broadcast, but it's usually only about 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that's it. I can't do this anymore. Because it just brings me down, and it truly isn't anything that I really need to know. And then I've had multiple friends. I've never done it, but I've had multiple friends that have taken a break from Facebook specifically and said, I'm not going to be on Facebook for 2 or 3 days, or I'm not going to a week. Or, I've known people who, during the season of Lent, if you're, of those faiths that observe Lent and they kind of give things up during like a 6-week time period, that have given it up, during that whole time. And when they come back, they're like, oh, why did I come back? This brings me down. It's a time waster. So yeah, taking a break from social media is another way. Don't take a break from us, just other social media.
You could always view us on YouTube if you want. Yeah,
taking a break from Facebook, going over to YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're about 7 minutes to go before we cut off. So what have we covered everything that you wanted to offer? Is there anything that you really wanted to say that you haven't had a chance to? I want to know what Alex does to balance, because she's always telling us to balance. So Alex, I'm calling you out. You got to tell us what are the things
how do you balance?
How do you balance, Alex? What do you do? Okay, while she's doing that, you answer.
Okay. Well, okay. So I think my takeaway, or what I want, my takeaway, and what I hope maybe others take away who watch this, would be what works for me may not work for you. Mm-hmm. And give it a shot and give yourself grace. Those are all things I'm learning now. Is I'm not going to master it. I'm not going to perfect it, but I can give it my best shot. And sometimes my best shot is not, it's different on any given day. As long as I've given it the best. When I coached basketball and some other sports, and then I coached Special Olympics, one of the things I used to always say was, all I ask is you give it the best you have at the moment you're on the court at that time, at the moment you're competing. Just give it the best you have at that moment. Yeah, that's all I ask. Leave it on the court, leave it there. That's all I can ask of you. If you've given it your best, that's all that anyone can ask of you. And that's what I say for ourselves is, if we've given it the best we have at that moment, then we should be okay.
Yeah. All right. So Alex answered. Okay. She says, rest and try to spread out activities when possible so they're not crammed together. And that's true too. Having those breaks, like Fran, you were watching my hashtag no limits earlier this week, and you posted, brain breaks are for everybody. We all need to just make a priorities list, is another one that Alex said, or make priorities in a list. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. And just, I don't know where I was going. I lost my train of thought.
So brain breaks.
Yeah, brain breaks. We all need those because our brains get too crammed. We need to just not think, if at all possible, for a minute or two. Like Nancy, going back to what Nancy said way at the beginning of this, even if only for 2 minutes, just meditating and just not thinking, which is really hard. Especially in today's world where we're so used to constant sensory overload. It is very, very difficult to sit and be quiet. Like you said, do nothing. So many people are so uncomfortable if they're not doing something. So my takeaway and what I want others to take away from this is, first of all, you're not alone. Everyone feels overwhelmed. Everyone feels frazzled at some point. Everyone needs to be refreshed and rejuvenated and re-energized and refueled. Some, there's different kinds of cars. Some can go longer periods of time without needing that. Some, you're an older model and you need your energy refueled more often. That's okay. What you said, what you can do at the moment that you do it, as long as that's the best you could give at that time, you have to be able to accept that and be okay with that. And not dwell on, oh, well, if I would have, or if this, or if that. It's over. You have to, okay, if I didn't like it, next time I'll try it this way. But focusing on things in the past or things in the very distant future that you have no control over, focusing on right now is the best you can do.
Yeah.
Any other closing?
I have called it, you got to Elsa. Let it go.
Yep. Now, if I would have known you were going to end with that, both of us are singers. We could have.
That's okay. No. We're good. I have a video somewhere of me singing on the horse that song. So we're going to go with it. When I was doing therapeutic writing. We're just going to leave it at that.
I may have to reach out to some of my friends at that therapeutic writing center and see if they can locate. Oh, well, I might be reaching out to Allie. I don't know how, but I might just have to figure that out. Okay. Well, thank you everyone who has joined us today. Thank you for the people who commented and gave us their tips on how they can rejuvenate, or for other people to re-energize. If you're liking these Fridays with Fran, go ahead and subscribe or follow me, Shelly Kino, IEP Consultant on Facebook. And we would love to have you continue to join us. I'm very much enjoying Friday with Fran. We laugh, I think, every week. And sometimes, we get a little more emotional in a negative way, but that's okay. So join me this Tuesday for hashtag No Limits with Rachel and her mom, Katie. And then next week, Fran and I haven't talked about our topic for next week. So tune in.
I know what I want to talk about.
Oh, all right. Well, see, she hasn't shared that with me yet. And we're not going to share it with you because our hour is almost up. So thank you again. And this is Shelly and Fran with Fridays with Fran. We're making the world better for all, one IEP or one person at a time.